let's talk about Mary. Catholics love the Blessed Virgin Mary and honour her above all the saints. They don't worship her. She's not some goddess, but they honour her because God honours her. He chose her to be the greatest of saints. We call her the Mother of God, not because she's before God or more important than God, but because she was chosen to bear God, as the early Christians called her, Theotokos, the God-bearer, because mothers don't bear bodies, they bear persons. And the person who was born of Mary was Jesus Christ, and to be that mother for him, she had to be chosen especially for that role, not just a mere biological vessel, but a worthy mother. If you could choose your own mother, how would you make her? She's called the Virgin Mary because before, during, and after the coming of Christ, she was virginal. She was the spouse of the Holy Spirit. Where he had entered, none other could. She could not have relations with a fallen man who would pass on original sin. It was fitting for her to be the Virgin. And the angel said that the Holy Spirit would come upon her. Mary knew quite well that you could conceive a child through marriage. She was espoused to Joseph, and yet she said emphatically, "How can this come about?" in the future tense, because I am a virgin, in the emphatic sense that it was not going to change.
We're looking at an altarpiece painted by French artist Enguerrand Courtin, who was active in the area around Avignon and in Provence. Unusually for a work of art from this period, the contract survives, so we have very clear description of what the patron wanted the artist to achieve. And what we see here is a panoramic view of the cosmic order. The scene is dominated by the Trinity, who are crowning the Virgin. The Virgin is dressed as a beautiful queen. She wears a crown of jewels, and her robe is fine. God the Father and God the Son are painted near identically. Their robes are the same colour, and they hold the crown between them. They're surrounded by the heavenly host. As our eye travels down the composition, we see the other elements of the world order. We see the earth. We see that shown by the depiction of Rome and of Jerusalem. And we know that the canon who commissioned this altarpiece had visited both of these places and wanted them included on the altarpiece. And below the temporal, we look down to the scenes of purgatory and of hell. And yet the composition is dominated in sheer scale by the Trinity. It provides the figures on earth below with a heavenly vision of the future, and with Mary at the centre of that. This depiction of Mary, which is known as the Coronation of the Virgin, was a very popular one in the late Middle Ages, partly as a result of increased Marian devotion. Mary here is seen as a queen, as a royal patron. Her regal nature is emphasised by her attire.
She is conceived immaculate. She's called the Immaculate Conception. That's not Jesus' conception. We're talking about Mary, from the first moment of her existence, was kept free from sin, that original sin which we inherit by being born separated from God. She was born without this stain of sin. How could one so highly favoured bear the sin of Adam's crime? From the very earliest times, we know from the 2nd century, St. Irenaeus, for instance, writing in Lyon, tells us that Mary was the new Eve. Just as Jesus is the new Adam, there had to be a new woman, a new Eve also. This is a gift that she received from her Son. Just as prophecies can be related to an event that comes later, so states and gifts of grace can be related to events that come later. She is saved from the first moment of her conception and kept holy. And for that reason, we believe she is assumed into heaven, that she did not commit a sin. She remained the greatest disciple of her Son. And at the end of her life, just because the corruption of the grave is a result of sin, a punishment for sin, it was not fitting that she should suffer that, but rather she should participate right at the beginning as the first fruits, like her Son, in resurrected life. Where she is gone, we too will follow. She is also our mother in the order of grace. She has many other children the book of Revelation tells us, who follow her Son. And on the cross, Jesus Christ gave Mary to us as our mother. In the person of his beloved disciple, St. John, he said to him, "Behold your mother," and to her, "Behold your son." And therefore we have very close bonds with the Blessed Virgin Mary, and we ask for her prayers. We believe that she, with the will of God and the power of God, can be present and intimate to every Christian who calls her mother.